Please stand and let us praise God.
Shout for joy to God, all the lands.
Serve God with gladness. Come into God's presence with joyful singing.
Know that Yahweh is God. God made us, and we belong to God. We are God's people and the sheep of God's pasture.
Enter God's gates with thanksgiving and the courts with praise. Give thanks to God. Bless God's name. For Yahweh is good. God's steadfast love endures forever, and God's faithfulness to all generations.
Aclamen alegres al Señor, habitantes de toda la tierra. Adoren al Señor con regocijo. Reconozcan que el Señor es Dios. Él nos hizo y somos suyos. Somos su pueblo, ovejas de su prado.
Entremos sus puertas con acción de gracias. Vengan a sus atrios con himnos de alabanza. Denle gracias, alaben su nombre. Porque el Señor es bueno y su gran amor es eterno. Su fidelidad permanece para siempre.
Randall is taking care of Emma today, so we're going to have him in front. So I call the children and youth, would please come forward. Good morning. So the subject of this spontaneous children's sermon is about what to talk about, which really fits. Because today we are going to have something happen that we do every once in a while here at the church, and it's called Voices from the Pew. And what we do is, rather than have a traditional sermon, we actually stand up. You guys stand up. And look out. Who do you see out there? So all those people standing out there, they are all stories. And what I mean by that is everyone you see out there has lived a life. Most people you see have lived many more years than you have. And in their lives, they've had good times. They've celebrated amazing things. In their lives, they've had bad times. They've lost people they love. They've run into challenging situations they don't know they're going to be able to handle on their own. And a lot of times, those people out there have turned to God when they needed help, or even to help them celebrate. And so, there's something about our faith, and it's called testimony. And testimony is talking about how God has touched our lives. Now, we can actually do it formally, where we get up and talk about it. I was born in 1950, whatever, and talk about it. And to wrap it up, but we can also talk about God's goodness in our life without even saying anything. Just by being good to other people, loving other people, thinking about other people. And it shows other people, oh, wow, God maybe is good in that person's life, and they're sharing that with me. So this morning, your mom's going to talk, Jude, and Lauren, our young adult volunteer, is going to talk, and they're going to share a testimony about a part of their life. Not their whole life, but a part of their life. And it's a really wonderful reminder to all of us about how our lives can be testimony. And we don't have to be nervous, because none of us are not broken. But our story. I think you understand what I mean. We don't have to be perfect to share goodness. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to take the love that's been given to us and pass it on. So we'll get a couple wonderful examples this morning. Young women who are going to share part of their journey and show us how God works in their lives and how we can show that to others. So can we go ahead and say a prayer? Yeah, let's bow our heads. Gracious and loving God, we thank you for the ways that you work not only in our individual lives, but in the life of this community, in the lives of our families, and the lives of the world. We ask that you help us to be good listeners and then to be good sharers. Amen. Our first hymn is in the Blue Spanish Hymnario, number 5. Cantemos al Creador. Let us sing to the Creator. In the prayer of the day, printed in your bulletin. I'm going to read in Spanish. You're welcome to follow in your language. Oh Dios, luz de las mentes que te conocen, vida de las almas que te aman, fuerza de los pensamientos que te buscan, ayúdanos a conocer para realmente te amemos, para amarte, para que podamos servirte plenamente. Cuyo servicio es la libertad perfecta, a través de Jesucristo nuestro Señor, que vive y reina contigo en la unidad del Espíritu Santo, un Dios, ahora y para siempre. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, throughout our lives, at times we all fall short of the glory of God. That's nothing that should cause us to get too upset. It's just something that should turn us towards God, to seek God's help and strength. So at this time, let us confess to God places that we know that we've fallen short, and maybe confess the places we don't even know we've fallen short. Please join me in the prayer of confession.
Merciful God, we confess that we have sinned against you in thought, word, and deed, by what we have done and by what we have left undone. We have not loved you with our whole heart, and mind, and strength. We have not loved our neighbors as ourselves. In your mercy, forgive what we have been, help us amend what we are, and direct what we shall be, that we may delight in your will and walk in your ways to the glory of your holy name. Amen.
Please take a moment for silent prayer and reflection. Hermanos y hermanas, oigan las buenas nuevas. El amor de Dios no es nada pasajero, es algo eterno. Sepan que por medio de este amor podemos tener vida nueva en nuestras vidas y vivir en la salvación y la luz de Dios. Brothers and sisters, hear the good news of our Lord Jesus Christ. God's love is not something that just comes and goes. God's love is eternal. Know that when we turn to that love, we are cleansed, we are forgiven. We're given peace, we're given hope, we're given new life. And now with that truth in our hearts, let us greet one another in the name of Jesus Christ.
listens anyway, so why bother him?
I don't have that one. I got a little one. Usually we get Mom, Pam, her sister, they think alike. And like yesterday, she goes, look at the earrings. Or no, what was it, the day before yesterday?
Same as that. We do that all the time. My sister and I, we think so much. We could literally finish each other's sentences. Or she'll walk into a department store on one end, and I'll walk in the other, and when we meet later, we will just say the same thing. How is she doing? She's doing good. You know, she's got her hands full taking care of her husband. He's not doing well. So, her hands are full right now.
Queridos hermanos y hermanas, please join me in the prayer for illumination this morning in English. Testify to us, O God, by the voice of your Spirit. Put your law in our hearts, write your word in our minds, and show your will in our lives. Through Jesus Christ, our Savior. Amen. Our scripture passage this morning, in light of the upcoming testimonies, comes to us from the early church account of 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 8 through 15. Or because it is a non-gospel reading, please stay comfortable. Please listen to God's word as it speaks to your heart and your soul. Finally, all of you, be like-minded, be sympathetic, love one another, be compassionate and humble. Do not repay evil for evil or insult with insult. On the contrary, repay evil with blessing, because to this you are called, so that you may inherit blessing. For whoever would love life and see good days must keep their tongue from evil and their lips from deceitful speech. They must turn from evil into good They must seek peace and pursue it. For the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their prayer. But the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. Who is going to harm you if you are eager to do good? But even if you should suffer for what is right, you are blessed. Do not fear their threats. Do not be frightened. But in your hearts revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to anyone who asks you for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and with respect. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
I mentioned to you that we will be blessed this morning with 2 testimonies, and I will just simply remind you that in mainline churches, I have heard it stated that testimonies are kind of a lost art. Usually you get a pretty prepared message on a Sunday morning that is exegetical from Scripture, but the early church was all about testimony. It was all about experiencing God's love and then sharing that with other people. So at this time, I would invite forward Laura LaMonica, who is going to give the first testimony.
Buenos días, les de Dios. Good morning. Sorry, y'all, I've been practicing really hard on that one. Okay. August 26, 2018, I had finally made my way to New Mexico, even though I had gotten lost a few times trying to figure out where I'd be staying at on the Middle School campus. When I arrived, the community I would be living with were at orientation. Since I was beginning my 2nd year as a young adult volunteer of the Presbyterian Church, USA, I was not required to go. I wouldn't meet the other volunteers until the next day, and we began as a group of 4 who accepted this particular call of service in Albuquerque, and the group dynamics were challenging in the beginning. In late November, one of the group members who was having a difficult time left the program. In the first 4 months, we spent a lot of time adjusting, accommodating, going with the flow, and trying to be a faithful community member to each other. In my interview before I came to Albuquerque, I specifically indicated wanting to work in a church. I wanted to learn the inner workings of how a faith community functions and develop a stronger understanding of what makes the church go. My original plan, going into my 2nd year of volunteer service, was to prepare myself for the Masters of Arts Youth Ministry program at Austin Seminary. I saw this as a faithful step to becoming a youth director. The plan changed very, very quickly. I realized I didn't have enough college credits to accomplish this, so I came up with another plan. But more about that in a moment. The first few months, I attended different committee meetings, session meetings, and volunteered at the Manal Historical Library. In the meantime, because I have a basketball background, I stumbled into the opportunity to coach the middle school girls and boys team at Manal School. Coach Boatman and Coach Doyle were very excited to put me in that role, and this became an important part of my year. But before beginning that role, I sought Pastor Rod's and the session's approval. Since Manal has a close relationship with our church, they agreed to allow me to coach as part of my volunteer year. As I continued my role in the church, I also found myself flourishing in this coaching role. And I'm realizing this has been such a year of growth for me, and I've lowered some walls of resistance and begun coming to terms with things that have been hard to accept. It has required a lot of patience, but I sense that it will be worth it in the long run. On my first few Sunday mornings here at Second Church, Rob was ever so kind enough to remind me that I didn't interact with much folks after worship. I just sat in the kitchen in Mary Montoya's chair and people watch, which happens to be one of my favorite pastimes. Even though it's natural for me to talk to lots of new people, it can be very overwhelming, like now. While I was people watching, y'all, I noticed something. This isn't just a church. This is one big family of faith that supports each other, loves one another, and won't hesitate to tell you what's up if you're acting out of sorts. Recognizing the type of church family here caused me to have a little flashback to when I was about 10, and and my family, my mom, my stepdad, and my sisters, and I experienced a house fire. And we had to live in a hotel for about 5 months. I'll never forget how my home church, St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church in Denton, Texas, came together and helped us with anything they could possibly think of. Home-cooked meals, visits, clothing. All of our possessions were smoke damaged in this fire, and we were literally left with what we had, which was essentially our pajamas. I didn't realize at the time, but as I grew older, the loving family support of my childhood church influenced my perception of the body of Christ. I began to sense that here in this place. I realized that this is a community that supports and will come and have each other's backs in their biggest time of need. Without judgment, without pity, but with just absolute openness and love. I've been Presbyterian essentially all my life. Well, since I was 2. And I did attend Sunday school growing up, confirmation class, I was confirmed in 8th grade. In the youth group, I went on mission trips, participated in fundraisers, vacation Bible school, senior high Sundays, and giving homilies. Upon graduating from high school, I saw it as a time for me to move on and go to college, where I would play basketball and hopefully grow up a bit. Well, surprise, surprise, I was not prepared. I didn't realize it at the time, but what made it so hard for me was that I didn't find a church while I was away. A big part of who I was up until that point in my life was just gone. You never know how much you actually miss something until it's not there anymore. This is what honestly started the worst and biggest learning experience about my faith that I was completely unprepared for. After college, I spent a lot of time away from a church community. I lacked the desire to go, and I let life get in the way at that particular time. I was working my way up the retail ladder from the loading dock to cosmetic manager before I was 21, and around this time I started having some health issues. I was tired all the time, and my body wasn't functioning like it was supposed to. I went through a battery of tests. They didn't really know what was going on. Still not going to church, by the way. So I kept up my retail career for about 3 more years when more health issues popped up. Again, my body just wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. So I told my mom something is wrong and we have to go figure this out. So we went. And yes, I make my mom go to my doctor's appointments because I'm a child. We were both really worried that I might have endometriosis. My physician finally got to the bottom of it and told me I had lupus. After she told us, her first sentence was, "It's manageable, but not curable." So I'm 24 years old, wondering what all this would mean for my life, now that my future has drastically changed. So needless to say, I became a WebMD expert about lupus. It's a chronic autoimmune disorder in which your body attacks itself. Your immune system is shot, and bonus points, you get really painful flare-ups that happen whenever they want. Also, little fun fact, most women aren't diagnosed until they're in their 60s, so apparently I just really like being ahead of the curve. In a way, it was a sense of relief to have a diagnosis, but it also brought on its own set of other hindrances. Still not going to church that much this time, and I found myself really, really angry at God. My mom was with me through all of this, and my supportive sisters who are here today. And my friends who would not let me wallow in self-pity. My mom sat me down one night. I was like, pretty much, look, you got dealt a really crappy hand, but you're not happy with your job. You're going out pretty much every night, and you're kind of being witchy. So you need to figure yourself out. She was like, what makes you happy? Do something for yourself, and stop trying to take care of everyone else and focus on you. Well, as usual, Mama Bear was right. When I learned about the Young Adult Volunteer Program, I saw that as a possibility for personal growth in life and faith, and both leaving the comfort of home and the retail world that I'd known so well, and then confront on my own the challenges I was facing. I saw it as an opportunity to learn about others and serve Christ in a new context. At first, I had a romanticized image of going somewhere far, far away for like a year. But after applying and going through the interview process, I found myself heading to Chinook, Montana, which is about as far, far away as the Texas gal can get. I remember mission trips would make me happy, and being able to serve made me happy. So I dove in both feet, not looking back. I left everything and everyone I loved behind, and just went for it. After my gap year in Montana, I sensed another volunteer year would be important for my journey. I reapplied for another year, and Albuquerque was the best fit, which I would not have been able to do so without the support of my home church back in Texas, and also without the support from Lisa Patterson, who has been my biggest advocate there, and also like a second mom, because it takes a village. The year I served in Montana, I slowly started working on my faith again. By the time I arrived in Albuquerque, I thought I was more comfortable with myself and my faith. But this year has been a year of incredible growth, and I stopped thinking so much in terms of me and began thinking in the plural of we. I began seeing everyone here come together and earnestly living the faith. I saw in the work of the missions committee when they took on the transgender asylum seeker transitional living program. I saw it by how much time and passion the worship and music committee puts into each and every Sunday. I saw it through teaching Sunday school. I saw it with the enthusiasm in the new members classes. I saw it in the young adult group meetings that happens Wednesday nights during the school year. I saw it in the Wednesday morning Bible studies. I saw it in the hospitality committee that provides a spread every Sunday after church. And I saw it in our amazing epic youth group that we have here. It turns out I wasn't lost with my faith, but I was mad and stubborn and wrestling with it. Being a part of the Second Church community made me realize I can be as mad and as stubborn as I want, but I can always rely on my tribe back home and my new one here in Albuquerque. Each and every single one of y'all has impacted my life in such a way to where I'm staying in Albuquerque when my year with you ends. I've decided that God is calling me back to school to finish my degree. I will increase my coaching, and thank you again for giving me that opportunity. This congregation has made such an impact on me that I became an affiliate member, which I never thought I would do. So even after my volunteer year ends, y'all better get used to having this loud texting around for a while. When my dad came to visit, he was really apprehensive about me staying for another year. And then he came for fellowship hour, and we get in the truck, and he's like, yeah, okay, you can stay. And he did say he's definitely having a beer with Willie when he comes up and visits. And my mom, who's been my rock. Sorry. My biggest supporter in this, my voice of reason, and who never lets her daughters give up on themselves, is definitely on board with me staying here and flourishing. So I just want to say thank you. I'm grateful for this year and for each and every single one of y'all I've met along the way. And I'm really excited to see what next year has in store.
Gilberto would come forward. So we just want to do a little something. I know it's not your last Sunday. You still have some more time. This woman will keep you in stitches.
I have a whirly gig quilt for you because you are your very own whirly gig. And there were times where you really helped my committee, and I know you've helped other committees. She worked at that charcoal grill till she smelled like a giant charcoal briquette, and worked so hard. So we really appreciate it, and this is for you.
serve you, Lord. I want to please you, Lord. This is my prayer. I want to love you, Lord. I want to serve you, Lord. I want to please you, Lord. This is my prayer. I want to love you, Lord. I want to serve you, Lord. I want to please you, Lord. This is my prayer. I want to love you, Lord. I want to serve you, Lord. I want to please you, Lord. This is my prayer. I want to love you, Lord. I want to serve you, Lord. I want to please you, Lord. This is my prayer. Lord, let me serve. I want to serve you, Lord. Lord, let me follow. This is my
At this time, we are going to be blessed to hear another testimony from Elizabeth Forward. And as she's coming up, let's keep Emma Skye, her daughter, in our prayers, who is homesick today.
Good morning, everyone. So I never thought of myself as a person who receives a word from God. But for the last 4 years running, sometime in early January, I've actually received a word or a phrase that I know only can be from God. In 2016, my word was rest, which was funny because that year was one of the most tiring I've ever had. In 2017, I got a phrase, which was thank you. In 2018, I got another phrase, image of God. Then earlier this year, again in the first week of January, when I was about to fall asleep one night, I received this year's word. This word is free. The state of being free, freedom, these things mean a lot of things to a lot of people. Today, I want to tell you a little bit about what being free means to me. I am free. Most especially, I am free of fear. I am free of being afraid of God, afraid of other people, afraid of not being successful, and afraid of not being in control. When I was 4 years old, I went through what people in my parents' evangelical world would call being born again. I remember this event, as clearly as it happened yesterday. I asked Jesus to come into my heart because my mom had told me that I had made Jesus sad for something I had done. And by that point, I had learned enough about being afraid of God that I was afraid of making Jesus sad. And as an empathetic person, I was also sad that I had made Jesus sad. So what my parents called my spiritual birthday for decades was actually born out of fear and sadness. By the time I was 9 years old, I was very afraid of God and my parents. And I knew that my parents loved me so deeply. They never abused or neglected me. They always cared for me. But I was the oldest child of an evangelical pastor, and they wanted to make good and sure that I stayed on the straight and narrow path. They had extremely high expectations for my behavior, and they enforced them strictly. Thus it is that I have a distinct memory of being 9 years old and helping my mother put away the clean laundry one Saturday. She told me to put the washcloths back in their proper place in the bathroom. I decided to veer slightly off course and to not put them on the exact proper shelf, but on a different shelf, just to see what would happen. I then told my mother what I'd done, and then immediately was struck with fear, because God knew what I had done. And I was afraid of God. I was also afraid of my mother and how disappointed she would be if she knew that I had lied. Thus, 3 minutes after the incident, I placed the washcloths on the correct shelf and went and told my mother that I had lied about it. About washcloths and a shelf. Imagine how warped my sense of God, self, and others was when it came to things that actually mattered. When I was 14 and finishing my freshman year of high school, my friends and acquaintances started swapping yearbooks to write notes and sign. People still do that now? But there's still yearbooks? Is that yes. Okay, alright. Alright, well that was a thing when I was in high school, so anyway, that's what we were doing. One boy named Jamie Blue wrote in my yearbook, "I'm number 1 and you're not gonna be, Jamie." I did not understand what he meant. I'd gone to public school for some of elementary school, but was homeschooled for most of middle school, and I had gone back to public school for high school. After a few discreet inquiries, I realized that good old Jamie was talking about class rank. I'd never heard about class rank. Sure enough, I looked at my end-of-year transcript, and it indicated I had a rank of 2 out of about 300 people. I evaluated my circumstances. High school looked to be a difficult enterprise. I wasn't pretty, at least not by high school boy standards, and that was what I cared about. I had always played recreational team sports, but I wasn't good at them. My parents didn't have any money, so I couldn't make up for a lack of looks or athletic ability by having expensive clothes or cars. And I was deeply afraid of not finding my place in high school, of not making at least someone happy. My extended family and parents' friends had always told me that I was smart. Thus it was that I determined at the end of my freshman year of high school that no one, and I mean no one, especially not Jamie Blue, was going to beat me at class rank or anything related to intelligence ever again. So really it was fear that fueled me to toil for the next 3 years. And when I was 17, I did indeed walk across the stage as my high school valedictorian. I don't believe that I wrote anything in Jamie's yearbook that year. When I was 19 years old and a junior in college, my life was spinning out of control. The church where my parents had served for 16 years had, through the influence of 2 elders, essentially thrown my parents to the curb, and I could do nothing about it. I was afraid. So I did the only thing that I knew to do. I did the only thing that I could control, which was my body. I lost about 40 pounds, was borderline anorexic. Actually, probably was. I never was diagnosed. Dropped 40 pounds in about 4 months. Fear twists and warps you. Fear traps you. But love sets you free. I was 21 years old when I moved to Mongolia after graduating from college. It was there for the first time that all the trappings of white evangelical Christianity began to fall away. All of the rules and expectations just literally weren't there. What was there was the unspoiled beauty of God's earth. What was there was space and the ability to think and ask questions without fear of censure. What was there were extremely poor people who worked harder than anyone had ever known and who shared everything they had with others. I was 22 years old when I first came to Jesus out of pure love. There was no fear or sadness involved. I simply realized with the first-hand epiphany that God loved me. Me. God really loved me. Not only that, but God loves everyone like that. Every single human is wrapped in the fierce and tender love of God. God loves us. A lot of things began to happen at that point. For one, I became less afraid of my parents and other people and no longer tried to hide from them the things that God was doing in my life, especially those things that may have offended their evangelical sensibilities, which was a lot. For another, I decided to spend another year in Mongolia and then come back to the US to go to seminary. If I was going to be free, I decided I needed to not be afraid of God or of others who would try to use their ideas about God to make me afraid. I suspected, I still don't know exactly why, but it turned out to be correct. I suspected that learning Hebrew and Greek for myself would actually help me in this quest. I went to seminary and enrolled in as many Hebrew and Greek classes as I could. I excelled. It really makes sense if you know what I excelled in my first year. Again, all goes back to Jamie Blue. I guess I have a lot. Should look him up sometime. I went to seminary, and I excelled in my first year and was the only woman out of the very few that were actually there who made the cut to take the highest level of Greek during my second year. One day, the professor of that class asked a question about the Great Commission of Matthew 28. The professor asked, which of these verbs is the only one that is in the command form in the Greek? I waited for my male colleagues to respond, which was my usual strategy to avoid drawing attention to myself. As the only woman in the class, I tended to do that by default. I eventually raised my hand, and when I responded correctly, the professor verbally shamed my classmates. The only one in the class to get this right is the only woman in here, he said. I saw that he was afraid. He was afraid that the lie of women's inferiority was being exposed. Like I said, fear twists and warps you. I finished my seminary degree online and then married my sweetheart, whom I met in Mongolia. Randall is one of the few people who understands being free. He is essentially unaffected by turmoil, conflict, or censure. In short, he is not burdened by fear. This is part of what drew me to him. Almost 10 years into our marriage, and he is still showing me how to be free. He even has the Mongolian word to free tattooed on his arm. This word is chulolok, and it is surrounded by a broken chain. We moved to Houston during the Great Recession. It was one of the only places where there were jobs. Fortunately, I got into the sociology PhD program at Rice, and we were able to make Houston our home for several years. A lot of beautiful, wonderful, awful things happened those years. And every time I felt fear dragging me under its waves, love would reach down and pull me up, walking once again on the water of Jesus. We moved to Albuquerque just over 2 years ago. As with any journey, learning a new route, in my case, the route of love, takes patience and persistence and time. Just last week, I was almost paralyzed by the fear of not being enough for my spouse or my children. And as early as this morning, I had to confess my fear of not being in control to Randall and Jude, my 4-year-old, because Emma is on probably her 6th ear infection, 2nd stomach bug, however many cases of pink eye, and so on for the last 4 months, and I can't control any of that. But the cool thing is that when God gives me a word, God also reminds me of it, and it pops up everywhere, exactly when I need it. Last Sunday, Randall and I went to see the movie Aladdin. At one point, the genie says to Aladdin that he wants to be free, to be human. The other night, I was reading from the Mary Oliver poetry collection and got to the first line of the poem Blue Iris. It read, "Now that I'm free to be myself, who am I?" Then yesterday morning, as I started a long bike ride, I hit shuffle play on my Spotify playlist, and a song began filling my ears and then my heart. "Who the sun sets free," the musician sang, "is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am." My faith journey to this point has been a cumulative process of God setting me free from fear. This is because God is love. God loves. I hope and pray that you all, as children of God, know and embrace this love in your freedom too. Peace to all.
Please stand in body or spirit. Let us together affirm our faith. reconciling work of Jesus was the supreme
crisis in the life of humankind. His cross and resurrection became a personal crisis and a present hope for us when the gospel is proclaimed and believed. In this experience, the Spirit brings God's forgiveness to all, moves us to respond in faith, repentance, and obedience, and initiates the new life in Christ.
Our next hymn, Lord, Speak to Me That I May Speak, is number 722 in the red Glory to God.
University of Montana West, degree in science and secondary education. The next one is Pilar Martinez. She is the granddaughter of Reyna Martinez, and she graduated from UNM with a Bachelor in Journalism. Pilar currently works for the Journal, so you may read the Journal and find her name in there. David Martinez is the grandson of Reyna Martinez, and he graduated at San Diego University with a degree in production. Allison Delaney is the granddaughter of Marty Martinez, and she graduated from high school and at Carlo High School with a full scholarship to Montana State. Adon Garcia graduated from Sewell High School, and he used to attend Second Presbyterian here in Mid-Highway Elementary. You probably remember him. But yeah, he graduated from Sewell High School. And generally, once a year, we like to announce our youth accomplishments in graduation, high school, or university. But I just wanted to emphasize that we're proud of all our youth accomplishments, whether it's a technical school, a trade school, they want to becoming a police officer, firefighter, just whatever. We're really proud of our youth. So feel free to give me any accomplishments that you want to announce. I'll be glad to. Thank you.
Buenos días desde Dios. Good morning. A warm word of welcome to you all to Second Presbyterian Church on this 13th Sunday of Ordinary Time. We would like to welcome guests and visitors that we have with us this morning. Our custom, even if you've been here before, but it's been a little while, is if you feel comfortable, we'd invite you to stand, tell us your name and where you're from. So guests, would you please stand?
Good morning. My name is Karen Robbie. I'm Lauren's mother, and I'm very pleased to be here in the community with you today and worshiping. These are my daughters, and I'll let them introduce themselves. I'm Carol, and I'm Marcus, and we're all from Denton.
I'm Jessie. I'm her older sister.
I'm Kate. I'm the youngest, and yeah, I'm from Denton.
We all are very glad that you're all here. Are there others?
I'm Karen Cobb. I worshiped with you before, but not for a long time. I'm happy to be back.
So glad to have you here, Karen. Any others want to stand this morning? Welcome the other young adult volunteers.
Woo!
And Luke, who is with them as well. I'm going to highlight just a few announcements. The beautiful flowers to my left and to my right are given from Beverly and Remy Molo. Loving memory of Beverly's father, Albert Gonzalez. His birthday would have been July 8th.
Actually, his birthday is July 8th, but what I meant to say was he would have been 98 years old.
Oh, so he would have been 98 on July 8th. Yeah. For the clarification. Just a heads up, I don't know if it's in stone, but I talked to Reverend Quinones just a couple days ago. He sends his love, and there's a very good chance he may be here July 28, whatever that Sunday is, July 20 or 21. So if you want to put it in your calendar. Just kind of a random question. There's a water faucet outside when you go down the stairs outside the sanctuary, and it's all of a sudden not working. And that is used by Chavela to water the garden over here, and then we need it to water the bushes so they don't die. So if anyone knows how to get that on, or if you turned it off, no judgment, as Lauren said, but we do want to get that fixed. Prayers of Joy, that Gil Miranda is with us in church today. He took a fall a couple of weeks ago, but we're glad to see him here. Also, you know that he is an accomplished softball player. It goes without speaking, but his team just won the gold in the Senior Olympics that he helps coach. One moment, please. I would like to wish a very, very happy birthday to Sam Moragas. Today is his birthday. And no, Sam, your wife didn't tell everybody, just a few. I'd also like to wish a very special birthday yesterday to Valentina Woodruff, who turned 7 years old. And one kind of just cool thing to share to wrap up the announcements. I'm going to read to you a passage from Scripture. I believe you're going to be hearing more about it next week. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothing and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go visit you? The king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. There's a new movement in the Presbyterian Church of the, 6,000 or 7,000 churches we have in the denomination. It's called the Matthew 25 movement, and the passage I just read to you was a snippet of Matthew 25. It's to encourage churches to do three things. One is to build congregational vitality. One is to work to dismantle structural racism. And one is to eradicate or work towards eradicating systemic poverty. So the denomination is encouraging local churches, presbyteries, other regional bodies to declare themselves a Matthew 25 church, to commit to doing this type of work out of the love of Jesus Christ. Our session talked about it on Tuesday. We were happy to sort of think in our own minds, well, we're actually doing a lot of this stuff, and we want to do more of it and have this part of our identity. So we voted as a session to become a Matthew 25 church of the Presbyterian Church USA. Well, fortunately, we have a clerk who works fast and good. And so he filled out the application right after the session meeting, like at 9:30 at night, and he sent it into the denomination, and I got an email the next morning from somebody at the denomination saying, your church is the 100th church in the country to declare itself a Matthew 25 church. And we had pre-decided that whatever church was the 100th to sign up, we're going to do a special article on you on the denominational website and in some other places. So long and short of it is, a few of you were interviewed, as well as I. And if you go to the PCUSA website, there's a wonderful article about our church. And I didn't know they also interviewed Sharon Yates from the Presbyterian office, who said some very wonderful things. I think George sent it out to the congregation, but if you haven't gotten it or you'd like to see it, it's just kind of an exciting little thing. So, close with that note. And now we are reminded from Scripture that God truly loves a cheerful giver. God, did I forget something?
Yeah, next week after church.
Thank you very much. God's message will come back with us here in a minute. Next Sunday, July 7th, after church, we're going to do a couple of things. One is Albuquerque Interfaith, who we have partnered with for like 13 plus years, is going to come and create a forum for us to just have a conversation. And you are all invited to come. And Lauren and some men from the men's committee will lay down a plate in front of you that has hot dogs and hamburgers if you'd like them. So we can just have some fellowship, a conversation, and be together next week. Thank you. Yes, Lauren.
Okay, so the Young Adult Volunteers of this past year, we are having our very last fundraiser on July 14th at St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church. It starts at 4. Bring a side and have some fun. Thanks.
And we'll make sure to put that in the bulletin
Yeah.
next week. Thank you very much. Yes.
I have a joy
Yes.
to express. Yesterday, my Aunt Mariella Salazar was her birthday yesterday, so I just wanted everyone to know. She
Mary Alice,
turned
would you
86.
stand up so we can clap? Thank you so much. Brothers and sisters, I repeat, God loves a cheerful giver. Let us be cheerful as we give. Dios celestial, te damos gracias por bendecirnos tanto en esta vida. Y gracias por esta comunidad que nos dé fuerza para seguir adelante. Te pedimos que bendigas a las ofrendas y a cada persona aquí, para que juntos podamos servirte, no con miedo, sino que con amor. Amén. At this time, we've come to the prayers of joy and concern. We would like to ask anyone who would like to share a prayer. And I'm first going to call on Tom Mirabal.
Well, good morning, everyone. Well, I have a real blessing, an anniversary, and a milestone all wrapped up into one. As of yesterday, probably or last week, and 26 years ago, my brother-in-law, Gloria's brother, was diagnosed with acute kidney failure, and it was life-threatening. Gloria came to me and said, you know what? She said, I'm not going to let my brother's kid grow up without a brother. She decided to donate a kidney to him at that time. So after 26 years, both are doing well and prospering. And I'd like to, if I have your permission to come up, your sisters, Olga, Martha, Lorraine, and Marie, and probably I know your brother and his wife and kids, in appreciation for the donation of the kidney and for your love, and like Ross said, the wonderful love. Enjoy.
How many years?
And you are truly our hero.
Just wondering if anyone wants to try to top that. Thank you, Tom. And Gloria, thank you for your sacrificial love for your brother. Joyce.
This Thursday I go to Mexico to see my dear friend, 6-year friendship going with Catherine. And her husband died myself and before he died last year, but then he died as we decided to go. And I'm going to take with me the cross you all gave me, this beautiful, and symbolizing the support for this trip.
So travel mercies for Joyce and Catherine as they go to Mexico to be with dear friends of over 60 years. Abel.
Yes, acknowledgement to all for your prayers for Gabriel Jaramillo, who had a knee replaced. He is in a rehabilitation center on North Unsert, just before you get to Rust Hospital. It's on the left-hand side. He's in room 303, and he'd like visitors and appreciate your prayers.
Thank you. Prayers for Gabe Jaramillo, who just had knee surgery. Prayers for his rapid healing. Richard.
I just found out this morning that one of my classmates from Manal has been diagnosed with cancer, George Carver. And prayers for him because he and his wife is also suffering from dementia. So between the cancer and the dementia, they're having kind of a tough time. So prayers went out to George from us.
Thank you, Richard. Prayers for George Carver, Manal grad, also a friend of Richard who was just diagnosed with cancer and who is also in the caregiving role for his wife who has dementia. So prayers that family be surrounded. Yes. Yes, Mickey.
I have several. We lost 3 members of our family this week. A cousin on my dad's side, and then
Mickey lost 3 family members last week, so please keep her and the entire family in your prayers. A prayer of joy for Amanda's birthday tomorrow, and also for a great niece's birthday that's coming up. Thank you. Any others? Yes, Anita.
Prayer of joy that President Trump was the first president to cross over to North Korea, and hopefully that will mean peace for our country. Prayers of my husband lost his brother, so prayers for him and his family. And also I heard from Joelle.
Yes.
And she needed some things, and so I went and took with her, but she also said that she's having problems with her, she's not having a problem with her car, but the engine light is on. And so she said, wanted to know if there's anybody that wanted to help.
Thank you. So some prayer that some positivity comes out of what's going on in North Korea. Prayers also especially for Ralph and his family and Anita upon the loss of his brother. Was that this week?
Well, he was buried yesterday, but
I'm so sorry. Okay, and then also Anita was in conversation with Joelle, who lives next door, and the engine light is on in the car, so thank you for bringing the light of that to our congregation, and maybe we can find a way to help her out. So thank you very much. Others? Anita and Anita. Okay.
Prayer with love and support for our pastor, Robert Woodruff, who has opened up his heart and his time to serve on the board of directors of Voices for Children, which is a local nonprofit. And I'm thrilled to know that he is going to have that experience.
Thank you, Anita. And Anita kind of introduced our congregation to that organization. Do you guys remember when James Jimenez came and did wasn't really a voice from the pew, but a sermon? So just joined the board, 6-year term. See how that goes? Any others? Ella, and then Susie.
Well, it seems like it's a month for birthdays. My daughter Carrie's was the 28th. Yesterday was my grandson Spencer's birthday. Today is his. My grandson Anthony on the 3rd, and my daughter Sabrina on the 12th. So we are celebrating at our house. But on a second note, I want prayers for Sam. He is going to have some minor eye surgery on the 2nd, and prayers for healing and for direction from the doctors that everything goes well.
Thank you. So birthday blessings for Ella's family and birthday budget blessings for all the birthdays. And then also prayers for Sam, who will be having some eye procedures. And we hope and pray they go well, Sam. I said Susie and Susie.
July 16th is coming around really quickly. I think all of our kids are feeling that the joy of anticipation, and we hope that God is filling their hearts with love for each other and for excitement for this trip. I really, really want everybody to take at least one name, or maybe all of them, and put them in your prayers until the 16th, and especially during that week that they are gone to Triennium. There's Amanda, Annika, Isaac, Jasmine, Desiree, and Layla. Pick one of those names and put them in your prayers. Take all of them in prayers.
Thank you. Please keep the 6 youth in your prayers who are going to be going to Triennium July 16th. We pray that you guys have a wonderful shaping experience in your faith and in your love and in your life that will help you on your journeys forward. So thank you, other members. Yes, Carol.
I spoke with Victor Swaza this weekend, and he's having some health problems, and we appreciate our prayers.
Thank you. Please keep Victor Swaso in your prayers, who is having some health issues. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. I think it's, Amanda, sorry. Amanda.
Prayers of joy. Yes, we're going to be celebrating her birthday on July 6th.
Happy birthday to Mickey McHugh on July 6th. Yes, Joey.
I want to thank everybody for their prayers and just the support and all. You know what you're doing. Thanks, guys. I love you guys so much.
Joey wants to thank you all for your prayers and your support, and we're glad to see you in church. Evan.
Yes, I think most of you might have it all already, but
And they do like refreshments, like cookies and coffee, tea and stuff like that. So if anybody's interested in helping bring some of that stuff, you can see me about that.
Thank you. Last week I asked how many of you knew Maria Varela, and quite a few of you raised your hand. We're going to have a service for her here at the church on Wednesday evening at 6:30. And if you want to bring any kind of foodstuffs or anything like that, please talk to Beverly, who has kindly agreed to become our new wedding and memorial service coordinator. Yes, Kay.
I'd like prayers for my cousin Carol, who will have surgery on Tuesday. I have 3 friends dealing with severe cancer diagnoses, and 2 friends are dying. So just keep me the supportive person that I need to be for these.
Kay like to pray for her cousin, Carol, who's going to be having surgery on Tuesday. Kay also has 3 close friends with cancer too, who are coming into the later stages of it. Prayers for her as being a supportive friend, and I'm going to pass that out to prayers for all caregivers among us who are giving a lot of love and energy to help people in their journeys. Tina.
Continued prayers for my Aunt Lena. Also, today is my sister Diana's birthday. Lots of birthdays. And prayers for my cousin Ann and Ray Gonzalez. His mother is having some health, heart issues, and she needs our prayers.
Okay. I think you heard those, but let's especially lift up Lena as she is continuing to struggle. Happy birthday to Diana, and prayers for cousins Ann and Ray.
John, you've had your eye surgery done yet?
Tuesday.
Please pray for good surgery, good recovery for Don Bixby's eyes.
It's easy that.
And his back, but that didn't get in my shirt.
Sam, did you have your hand up? Okay. Beverly? Absolutely. Prayers for the Molos. You're going to visit their son TJ in Miami. Prayers for safe travel and a wonderful encounter. Julie, did you have a prayer you want to share? Because you all have done such a good job praying, mine's going to be very short. So let us pray. Gracious God, we know you as author and perfecter of our faith. Lord, as we go on our journeys, help us to see your authorship in our lives. Help us on the dark days, especially. Help us to seek you, to seek others, to guide us into the light. And then, Lord, when we are able to share that light, help us to share it with other people. Lord, we ask that you would pray with us in the prayer that your Son taught us. Padre nuestro, que estás en los cielos, santificado sea tu nombre. Venga tu reino, hágase tu voluntad, como en el cielo, así también en la tierra. El pan nuestro de cada día, dánoslo hoy, y perdónanos nuestras deudas, como también nosotros perdonamos a nuestros deudores. Y no nos dejes caer en tentación, mas líbranos del mal, porque tuyo es el reino, y el poder, y la gloria, por todos los siglos. Amen. Closing hymn, My Hope is Built on Nothing Less, number 353 in the Glory to God hymn.
Righteousness, I hear the cross, the sweetest name.
love is an amazing thing. So let's go out the doors of this church with love in our hearts to share with everyone. Y ahora que la gracia de nuestro Señor Jesucristo, que el amor de Dios y que la comunión del Espíritu Santo sean con todos nosotros, hoy día y siempre. And all God's people say.
Amen.